Welcome to the Afterthoughts podcast. Ryan is no longer with us. I regret to inform you he's in Hawaii this week. But I have good news.
He had a massive stroke of fortune, and he is in paradise in the Pacific Ocean right now.
That was good. Yeah. Doug's sitting on this side today, so I hope that doesn't make anyone uncomfortable, but he's right here because we have a special guest to complete this party of three. Wade Lombard in the house today.
Great job, Wade.
Yeah. Thanks for having me,
Wade,
guys.
last week we had an Olympian on here, so the only thing to do the following week was Wade Lombard. There's nobody else that could follow an Olympian except for you, Wade.
Well, I was not comfortable with there being an Olympian here last week, actually. And my wife mentioned how far you did fall in choosing to have me on the week after an Olympian.
Kimberly keeps you humble. We know that to be true.
Were you ever an Olympian?
I did not have that opportunity.
No.
Do you think you will be?
No, it's probably past.
That
opportunity is gone. Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Curling. We could train for a couple of years, and I bet we could get good at that.
That does look fun.
Yeah.
I want to try that. I'm one of those guys. I'm good with the broom.
Absolutely.
You guys have seen
You
me
serve
in
on the
lobby.
facilities team.
That's right.
So you could be good at curling.
There's a future there.
All right, let's think about that. Kayla, make a note. Curling team practice.
You know,
Find a local rink maybe, or
okay.
try.
One thing that's interesting,
Buy a couple brooms as well.
I do remember the thought of when you're growing up, your middle school, your high school, you watch, March Madness or the NBA Finals or whatever, and you still think one day that is possible that could be me. I could hit like a growth spurt. I could put in the work.
Yeah.
I'm still young enough. And then slowly but surely there comes that point where you realize you're watching the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and Patrick Mahomes is like 10 years younger than you. And you realize, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, they forgot me.
Yeah.
They missed on me.
I forgot myself. God forgot me. I did not get that talent.
All the scouts forgot about me somehow. It's
Yeah, you
crazy.
stop mentally inserting yourself into the screen of the game.
Now you're the coach.
And then, you're the coach or the dad of the
I could be the
player.
coach one day.
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, how would I coach him?
It's the
from
same with
stands?
TV shows. You watch a show and you're always like the cool protagonist young guy, and then
Right.
after a little while, now you're the dad. That's
Yeah.
like, how would I guide my cool son?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can all relate on
And you
that.
want it that way.
Right.
Yeah, it's better to be old, is I think what we're saying here. We have a great crew here. Merlot running the show, as we always said. We have questions with Kayla today, but a substitute with the same name, also named Kayla, but with the last name Simone, so it can be also known as Simone Says.
Okay.
A lot of fun gags going on here. And another guy named Ethan,
It's
this
weird.
is entirely confusing, but Ethan just joined our team, and he's going to be helping run this podcast for the rest of his life. So he's never seen someone more excited than he is right now. So great crew.
We have a 14-person team and 3 Ethans.
15 now.
15?
Well.
Okay, still. 3 Ethans.
Yep.
2 Kaylas.
You find an organization that has those percentages in the world, and I will call you a liar.
This one.
Nope. Don't believe you. Okay. Wade, give us a quick bio. Who are you? Tell us about your family, your career, anything we need to know before you drop some wisdom today. Wisdom with Wade is the title of this episode, probably.
First of all,
and then we'll get to that.
I got zero prep for this. I have no
Yes.
idea what we're going to talk about. I just want to make sure we put that
That's
out
kind of
there.
the case for all of our guests.
And I see that, but I picking up on that. It's becoming
You mean
very
when you watch
obvious.
the episodes,
Yeah.
you're like, they didn't prep this person
I'm
at
getting
all?
this. Because my wife, who I call Kaylo,
Kaylo.
Kimberly Lombard, Kaylo, kind of like
Okay.
J-Lo, she's going to have comments about this, about my performance today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want the audience to know that I've received no prep.
No prep.
No prep. Okay. So
Except
now we're
for
past that.
a lifetime of
And
preparation.
I'm a prepper. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Prepper. Do you
I'm
have a bunker?
I don't have a
Not
bunker.
that kind of prepper.
But I plan ahead.
You got a journal with notes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just want to
You
manage
have a
expectations
smartphone?
here for
That's
the
right.
audience.
Yeah.
Those are useful.
Want to meet expectations.
That's right.
Anyway, all right, quick bio. So born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama.
Ooh.
Big Roll Tide fan.
Yikes.
So, the UT just joined the SEC.
Yes.
So this is about to get interesting.
Yeah.
And the GOAT, Nick Saban, he just retired. In most of the state of Alabama that are Alabama fans, they all agree they would drink his bathwater. They love him that much. And so this next year is going to be interesting. So I'm going to start with...
Was there like a time of mourning in Alabama? Like were there people out like candlelight vigil type stuff when he retired?
No question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's serious. When
It's
I say
heavy.
he's the most powerful man in the state,
Yeah.
There's not even a close second. The governor is adorable compared by power wise. Anyhow, so born and raised in Birmingham, went to a small Christian school in East Tennessee where I met my wife Kimberly first day of college. We've been together ever since. We got married 4 years later. So we've been married 22 years, which means that we've been married longer than we were not married.
Wow.
I got married when I was 21. So
That's
we have,
cool.
yeah, pretty cool. Moved to Austin, Texas in 2008. My whole family, both my sisters and their husbands and their kids and my parents all moved to Austin
Great migration.
in 2008.
For the recession, just to kind of
We wanted to
enjoy
sink
it.
in.
We're going to make the most of this recession.
So it's funny you say that because we started a business in 2008 tied to housing. So here's what we did. This is the entrepreneurial intuition we had. We said, let's start a small business in the statistically worst year since the Great Depression to start a small business and it be tied to housing during the worst housing crisis in the history of our country. That's when we began our business.
Yep.
And so that's what we did. And it was pretty terrible for about 5 years. And so we went on to grow that business. That business moves furniture around. And so we've been very blessed. Now we're in Austin, Houston, Dallas, Denver, San Antonio. And we have franchises sold in Atlanta and Nashville. Wow. So been very blessed with that business. I also have a couple other home services businesses where we do carpet, and another one that's a handyman business. So really found my lane in home services. Nothing sexy about it, but that's what I do. I have 3 children. They're all in high school. They will be sophomore, junior, senior this next year. So we will have a graduating senior 3 years in a row.
Dang.
And then we'll be empty nesters in 3 years.
It's ridiculous that you guys will be empty nesters in 3 years.
It's ridiculous. I know.
We made jokes about this being the old podcast, but you're not old. So the thought of you being an empty nester
A young
3 years
empty
from
nester.
now.
Yeah.
Are you going to travel?
You got a lot of fun.
So it's
be had.
interesting you asked that.
All the ballparks in the United States?
Well, Kimberly and I, Kayla and I felt like we spent the first, I'm going to say 15 years of our marriage adulting. And we just didn't have fun like we should have. We spent so much time focused on career and business and paying bills and raising our children.
Yeah.
We've already started trying to make up for lost time on that kind of thing. So we've been to Europe 3 times over the last 2 years. We've tried to take the kids fun places. We're trying to make up for lost time when we are still young. We have some disposable income, and we just have the energy and time to get out there and do it. So the travel thing we've already started. So we're trying to get ahead of it. So yeah, that's the kind of 1, 2, 3. Been at Red Rocks 2 years.
Yeah.
And I would argue it's going to be tough to find a family that's more all in from their hearts for this church right here and what you guys and this whole team's doing. I mean, we are 100% sold out.
Well, we love having you guys here.
Yeah.
That was a very good, unprepared biography.
Once again, unprepared.
Yes.
Really good.
Yes.
Unprepared.
Can't emphasize enough how impressed I am by you, Wade. Hope Kayla's listening.
Oh, man.
Speaking of Kayla, substitute. How do you feel? Ready for questions with Kayla today?
It's an honor to be here.
An honor to sit in the seat. Kayla, hit us with a question.
Okay, so my first question is inspired by recent events.
Yes.
So Ethan, you can answer this question first.
Okay.
So the question is, have you ever been skydiving? If so, how would you describe the experience? And if the answer is no, why? What's holding you back?
Okay, recent events. A couple of us got to go yesterday, go skydiving. I'll give you a clip of my video so you can throw it in here.
Okay.
It was very fun. I skydived for the first time 10 years ago to propose to my wife. That's how I did it. There was a sign my brother and his wife put on the ground, "Will you marry me?" I had this like fake little ring in the plane, fumbling around with it. Right as we're about to go, I'm like, "Gotta ask you something." Like yelling, she can't hear me. She's like, "What did he say?" And we just jump out the plane. I had prepared with the guy, prepared with the guy. So him and I go out of the plane.
Connected to the guy?
We have
Y'all are
we're separated
guys.
with it.
Okay.
I've got a tandem guy. She's got a tandem
Right,
guy.
yeah.
My guy was like, "Okay, we'll go." And he told me, "We're going to free fall longer than I'm supposed to let you, but we got to get you to the ground so you can see her come down." So I didn't really enjoy skydiving because I was so focused on proposing and getting engaged.
Right.
So I'm like plummeting towards the earth looking like, is the sign in the right place? You know, so yesterday I got to go again. And obviously that was one of the best days of my life, proposing to my wife. It was really fun. And we had to wait for 3 hours because the clouds were too low. And truly, I believe God like opened the clouds. Because they said, "Why don't you just come back tomorrow?" And I kept being like, "Nope. No, we're not. There's a party planned tonight. Like, this is happening today."
Right.
The clouds
Just
opened.
skydiving.
We were
We're
like
doing
the
it.
only plane that went up. And 20 minutes after we got on the ground, it was snowing. This is in Colorado. So that was an amazing day. So I got to go yesterday again, and it was so much fun. The free fall is incredible. I had a blast. Got to parachute through a cloud. You could smell it. It was crazy.
How high up was Steph when she could read the sign?
I think when she pulled the chute, which is at like 6,000 feet,
Yeah.
she could see it.
Okay.
Once she was parachuting down.
Okay.
But yesterday, I mean, we were going up in the plane, and I looked out, and I was like, oh, we're getting high up. And I had this reader thing, and it was like 3,000 feet, and we went up to 14,000.
Wow.
So it's pretty surreal. But it's kind of like, even if you're scared of heights, which I don't love heights, when you're that high up, it doesn't feel, you're not going to hit the ground.
No.
Right? It'll take a long time if you do. So it was awesome. Very, very fun. And shout out to my buddy Josue, who took me, and a bunch of us.
Yeah, that was
made it all
awesome.
happen. Really cool.
Yep. That was awesome.
You've gone?
I have, yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'll go. I went back right after college, Colorado. Awesome experience. I was supposed to go with you guys yesterday. Sam saw the email from Josue and was like, wait, you're going skydiving? For context, we just had a baby 10 days ago.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And she said, babe, we'll go skydiving. I'm all for you going skydiving. Just not 10 days after we had a baby. Can you not go?
Probably.
And
fair.
my wife, she's all about, she's Miss Adventure. She's go for it. But
Tough timing for you.
it was tough timing. It was a Blink-182 concert that I missed. Because we bought the tickets like a year ago, and then it happened to be the due date of our baby.
Yeah.
And then skydiving. But it's sacrifices we make as dads. You know
Which
what I mean?
of those two would you want back?
That's a really tough question. Blink.
Yeah, for sure.
Blink-182.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
Doug's ticket. It was awesome.
Yep.
He gave it
Sent
to me.
him.
What a good
I
friend.
sent him. You're welcome, man.
It was very fun.
But we did have a little girl, by the way. Mila
Yes,
Kate
congrats.
Wekenman.
Mila Kate.
Thank you.
So cool.
My wife watches all these too, by the way.
Oh,
and
nice.
She's
is
the biggest fan of the
obsessed.
Afterthoughts podcast. So,
Obsessed.
babe, I don't have any prep for this either. I'm spitting
Just
off
where
the
you
cuff
go.
Did
here.
you-
Just like Wade.
You went skydiving in Colorado, is that right?
Yeah.
And you
It was
loved
awesome. Yeah. Been skydiving and then bungee jumping a few times.
Which is scarier.
Which is scarier in my opinion, because skydiving is, you know that feeling that you get when you're, the free fall feeling, where you feel it in your stomach? When you skydive, you feel that for like a second. And this is what I learned about it, because that feeling is based on spatial awareness. So when you can see yourself falling and getting closer to the ground, that creates the feeling of free fall in your gut. So when you're bungee jumping, you dramatically see yourself getting closer to the ground.
Yeah, right.
You look at the cliffs around you, you
Yeah.
look at the bridge above you, and you go, I am falling.
Your brain can compute.
Exactly.
Yes,
when you're
agreed.
skydiving,
Yeah.
you get that for a second because you were just in a plane and now you're not.
Right.
But then it just feels, you can't tell you're getting closer to the ground.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're flying, and it's incredibly windy, and it's awesome. It's one of the coolest feelings ever. I thought bungee jumping was a little more terrifying.
Yeah.
But I
We
love,
also-
I happen to love, I don't know what it is, I love heights. I love that sensation
Yeah,
and that
guy's
feeling.
crazy.
So I'll do that. I would do that every
day. We got
day.
to bungee jump together at Victoria Falls, and like a year before, this girl had jumped, and when she was towards the bottom, her cord snapped, and she fell down into the river below.
For real.
And
She
so
lived, though?
we
Yeah.
heard she lived, and she went back like a year later and did it again.
Why not?
But we had heard that, so we looked it up, and we watched the video the night before we were about to go bungee jump there. And right after we watched the video, we were like, "Why did we just do that?
Why?
Yeah, because we show up the next morning and we're like, yep, this is the bridge.
This is exactly
this
the
is
place
what we just
where
watched last night.
That's the river she fell into.
It's what's possible.
Yeah.
We survived. Okay, where did you go skydiving?
Okay, well, I think that's important. So you guys went in Colorado, which just has a safe feel about it. I went in Pell City, Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what doesn't feel safe?
I've heard of that.
A place that's
Yeah, we-
within 30 minutes of Talladega.
We like to-
and I'm not kidding you.
We like to summer in what's it called? Hell.
Pell City.
Yeah, we always summer
yeah,
in
you
Pell
have a home
City.
there.
Nobody's used the verb summering in Pell City. I can promise you. And if you haven't been, and I don't know about y'all's experience, but my experience was before you go, you have to fill out all this paperwork where
Yeah.
it literally says, if you die
Yeah.
because we were 100% neglectful of your safety, you can't sue us.
Yeah.
Like there's like statements
You
like
just gotta
that.
not
You're
read
just,
that.
You're
Yeah.
just putting initials by
Sure.
everything. So we're walking out to go, and we went in 2005 because we were about to start trying to have children. And Kimberly goes, once we do have children, this isn't happening again.
Yeah.
And so she's like, she got it for us for our
Until you're
anniversary.
empty nesters.
Until
We're gonna send you guys skydiving
Yeah, once
in
we
3
get rid of the
years.
kids, what could go wrong? Okay, so we're walking to the plane, and some cloud cover started to come. And I swear this happened. The guy that I was tandem with looks at the pilot and goes, "Do you think we're okay?" And the pilot looks up. He goes, "Yeah, I think we're okay." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. What are these?"
Let's not be 60-40.
Throwing the word think around a lot. You know what I mean?
It still feels like a lot of indecision, maybe,
Yeah.
you know? And so that was kind of the most tumultuous part. But once we went up, I 100% connected with what you said. Once you're out, it does not feel like you're getting closer to the ground. Your brain doesn't make that, and it feels like you're floating. And as soon as we got down, I wanted to go again because it's not one of the. I thought it was going to be a box you check, and I'm past that. I'm never doing it again. I would definitely do it again.
Oh, for sure.
It's okay.
For sure.
When they're all out of the house, we'll go.
Let's
take
go.
Wade. So
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Deal.
Even Mila?
Yeah, Mila wants to go. I showed my son, my 5-year-old Zeke, the video last night. He's watched it 5 times.
Yeah.
And he was like, "I want to go. Can I go with you next time?" And I was like, "You can go when you're older. You can't go yet." And he said, "Yeah, when I'm 7, I can go."
When I'm 7.
Okay. For sure, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for letting us tell our skydiving stories.
Of course. Next question. If you could be any age, like freeze time, you're this age for the rest of your life, what would it be?
This kind of begs the question on New Earth for the rest of eternity, what age will you be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it the same
Good
question?
question.
I don't know.
Well, or is everyone, could you, people different ages? You know, like how does that work?
I don't know, man.
Any age.
29.
Yep. 29. Why?
I don't know. In my 20s. 29 was a great year.
Yeah.
It was an awesome year.
Wade?
Yeah.
You know, this is going to sound like I'm just mailing it in. Maybe this was for Kalo. What's Ed Helms' line from The Office where he said, "I wish when you were in the good old days, you knew it was the good old days"?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Ethan's getting a tattoo of that.
So I kind of think I'm in the good old days. So right now, where I'm at and where our family is, our kids are, you know, all driving autonomously, except Harley, she'll be driving soon. And they're all on their way. You can kind of see who they are.
Yeah.
And then Kimberly and I get to watch that happen. And career-wise, we're doing good. We're comfortable. We have community. We have church. Like, honestly, right now, a lot of boxes are checked that I would say over the last 20 years, we struggled to check these boxes. And so I'm kind of feeling like in 20 years, I'll be like, remember when I did that podcast with no prep?
Yeah.
That was the age. That was it.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
I'm going to choose the same answer, but I get to be Wade.
Okay.
Not me. I get to be Wade at this age.
Oh, okay.
Change the
So you
question
can, this is what other person would you be?
I changed it. But also a shout out to Merlot. My wife, we threw a little surprise birthday party for Merlot the other day, and there was some miscommunication. And so everyone showed up, and AJ had made these shirts. So everyone's wearing a Haley's 30th Buc-ee's themed shirt because she loves Buc-ee's. And she's turning 28. So, so we told her this is your first of 3 annual 30th birthday parties.
Let's go.
So happy,
messed it up.
happy 30th. You are the youngest 30-year-old I've ever known. Happy birthday. Okay, one more?
Yeah, last question. If you could be in any career except what you do right now, what would you be doing?
I'd work for Wade.
Oh, it's such a mistake.
I'd be
I would
Doug's
be the-
direct report working for under Wade.
Aim higher. Aim higher.
I'd be I'd get certified as a skydive guy so I could take Wade tandem
Let's go.
and ask him wisdom.
Let's go.
Dude,
Yes.
there's a guy, and then there's also the video guys, where the guy's whole job every day is he just skydives on his own while he takes video of other people.
Yeah.
Does it every day of his life.
It's
That's
not,
so
not
fun.
terrible.
So fun.
Not terrible.
But that is actually okay. So is this kind of more fantasy world or realistic? Is it I'd be in the NBA
I'd be-
or
Realistic.
Realistic.
Oh, pro golfer.
Don't
then.
say
If we're being
PGA.
realistic,
I was going to
pro
say
golfer.
PGA all day long, for sure.
Practically.
Sure.
Quick question for you: if you could take 4 years off where you had nothing to do but practice golf every single day, do you think you could get your PGA card?
No.
The answer is no.
No.
You
No.
couldn't.
I'll never be able to putt
Absolutely.
that well in my life.
The best golfer I know, we had this conversation with him, and he's incredible. He's the assistant Austin FC coach, which that shouldn't be allowed. He's the most incredible athlete,
Seems
and
unfair.
and now he's good at golf too, which is
that's not cool.
infuriating. Anyway,
He's not happy.
we asked that question.
He wishes he was.
And he was like, absolutely not. I could not.
Really?
Because to go from
And he answered
a,
that.
a 3
Okay.
handicap to what you have to get, he's like,
No.
it's just, to shave that many strokes is just too hard.
For Biden to get down to a 6 handicap, like you
It's
said
really
the other day.
impressive. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
let me
seen his
think.
swing. He's not.
Let's not act like children here, okay? Let's.
That was, gosh, that was so good. It's just the inner guy, and every guy that has it, he's not a 6. I couldn't let it go. Like,
Right.
but first we got to make sure.
The two most
this guy's
powerful
not-
people on the planet in a
Right.
presidential debate all of a
Yeah.
sudden take 2 minutes to they like legitimately frustrated about my golf game.
Right.
Which everyone is judging. I could see myself getting pulled into that kind of a moment
Oh,
in a
for
big moment.
sure.
Oh, hold on a second. If we're going
Wait.
to talk about golf, no way you're a 6.
Right.
Yeah, we're in good hands. It's a good future for this country. Everything's going great.
What's your answer to that question?
So it's been the same answer for a while. My brother-in-law is my business partner at the moving company. Just gave me a book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and he gave it to me because we're in the service business, first of all, but second of all, he knows my dream has always been to own like a boutique hotel.
Okay.
I love serving people at a high level. I really love the idea of creating an experience for folks where it's kind of unsurpassed by the competitors, and so if I were to retire and go do that, that would be a lot of fun because I'm not a big fan of retiring. Like I want to work. I'm a
Right.
worker
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
So to retire to do something like that would be a joy for me. I would
In
love to
Pell
do that.
City, probably?
Absolutely. Where you're summering?
Yes, I'll stay there.
Exactly.
Yeah, put me
Nice.
down for 3 months. Raise the rates. I don't
That's
even
great.
care. I just want
That's
to
a
stay
cool.
there.
That's a cool
Yeah.
dream. Do you
That is
actually
cool.
see that happening?
No, not right off. I mean, like I don't actually have any experience in that arena, but
Yeah.
it's been for a while. Like that would be so much fun to
be
me.
awesome.
So I don't really have a path towards that.
Okay.
But it's a dream
do that.
for sure.
Okay. What's your answer?
I'd want to work in
Realistic.
sports journalism. That
Yeah.
was my degree, was headed towards that.
nice.
I don't know what I would get to or do, but Pat McAfee has my dream job. If I wasn't doing what I
You
do.
would never wear sleeves.
I might wear
No.
sleeves,
Oh,
but
okay.
hosting, a show like that. I don't know if I would get to that level, but to be in that world somehow would be
Yeah.
really-
Hang out with the Manning brothers on Monday night.
Well, I already do that. but
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They're friends of the show. Yeah. And
Next
you?
week.
Honestly, I think that's one of the reasons I like hanging out with you so much. Something along the lines of being an entrepreneur, starting
Business.
some kind of business, some kind of company.
We were going to start a garage floor business back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, where you put the epoxy down and all that?
Yep.
We
Oh,
would
yeah.
make a killing in this condo complex we lived in. Never did it.
Didn't have time.
We'd be
We had
millionaires
more
now.
time than we thought. We had no kids at the time.
What you're
so-
doing is working out. Just heads up.
Thank you.
Doing pretty well.
We're having fun.
I'd say you're in your lane.
Well,
full
against
steam
all
ahead.
odds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have a new respect for other Kayla and what she does here as Questions with Kayla? Pretty wild life she lives.
Yeah, it's fun.
Good. All right.
Wait, I
Well,
have one more for a good transition.
okay.
Oh,
perfect.
great.
And this
We're
one-
all about good transitions
this
here
one-
at the Afterthoughts
This was only
podcast.
for Wade.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
great.
Good call.
I'm just gonna sip my drink.
No prep. Here
Yeah,
we go.
no
Turn
problem.
my
Here
mic
we
off.
go. If you could describe, I don't know, I guess just your life or your life story in one word. One word to describe just your story. What would it be?
Probably unfair. Like it's unfair how blessed I am, and I don't even mean that in the current state, which I am, but the family I was born into, the faith foundation that I was given. Like my mom was a spiritual giant, and she passed about 2 years ago. But what she left behind in her wake was 13 grandkids, 3 children, and their spouses that love Jesus, that are sold out to, expanding the kingdom, making heaven more crowded. And that set my life on a course that when I look around, it's unfair. And one of the illustrations I give, and I've given to my kids a lot, I talk about holding weights like a dumbbell. And I've given one, I'll pull up the strongest kid in the room when I've done this talk before. And I'm like, are you strong? And this kid's like, yeah, I'm strong. And then I pick another kid who's much weaker, and I give them both a weight. And I say, hey, I'm just going to keep on talking, but I want you guys to hold these. But I look at the big kid. I was like, I want you to hold it out here. I want you to hold out in front of you where your arms are extended. And he's like, yeah, I got it. And so then I get talking, and you can see this kid start shaking, right? Because the weight is really heavy. And then eventually I'm like, okay, you guys sit down. And here's the thought. Both kids were carrying something heavy. When you have Jesus, truly a deep relationship with Jesus, it's like carrying it here. You still have problems. These things are tough, man. Like what we're going through, we laugh about the election, but what's happening is kind of crazy. It's kind of next level crazy. And you're going to deal with hardship, and you're going to deal with difficulties in your career, and your kids are going to go through dark times. And Kimberly and I's marriage, we have what we call the dark years. Having a deep relationship with Jesus feels unfair because it's like I'm holding that weight here, and it's just easier to carry. And I have a peace that surpasses all understanding. And so we're going through these valleys, but we're going through them with something that I feel like is almost an unfair advantage. And so that's the word I would use.
I love that.
Awesome.
Good.
That's a great answer.
Let's dive straight into some of that.
Yes.
Question that pops up for me. Oh, did you want to ask something?
We both got questions
at the same
for
time.
days.
Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. You go first.
What would you say practically to someone that's listening that's like, I want to be like Wade's mom, that leaves this wake, that gives this inheritance? You know, because there's so many testimonies of someone who came from nothing, really hard background, all that stuff, and that's a beautiful story. When they find through all that, they find their faith. But there's not enough stories of a family that just handed down a legacy of faith and just did things the Jesus way and made generational impact that way. What did your mom do that sets you up and the rest of your family to continue that legacy?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. First thing I'll say is she started her day with Jesus. And I know that sounds cliche. It feels like the right answer, right? But let me give that a little bit of color. My entire childhood, I remember coming downstairs, especially in the summer, and my mom was on the back deck and her Bible was open. And honestly, like we fended for ourselves for breakfast and because that was her time. And so there's something about having my children sit next to me and Kalo and them watching us worship, right? And then we leave service and we talk about what you guys taught us that day. We're modeling. You talk about passing it down. It's more caught than taught, okay? And so my memory is of my mom reading God's word every morning, and it wasn't 10 minutes. I mean, it was a solid hour. And to her, I mean, I don't do that. I need to do that longer, but that's my memory. And then the second thing is, and this is where I'll really step on some toes with some listeners potentially.
We do that often.
We don't miss church.
Yeah.
We don't miss. If we're in town, my kids never wake up on Sunday and be like, hey, are we going today? And so it's amazing to go to a church where they want to go, but we don't miss. And so it's been like that since Kimberly and I got married. It's like we go to church and we're in community, and this is a big part of who we are. And we were taught that at an early age. We went to church. Why? I tell you this, you can listen to a sermon online. You can. It's hard to replicate worship. It's tough. Can you do it? You can. I'm telling you, it's difficult. You walk in that room and you get led into a place of worship that's this less of me, more of you. And what happens to your heart, you can't explain. And when I miss, it doesn't happen often. We're out of town or something happens. Here's what happens. My fuse is a little shorter. I treat people a little bit different. I can start seeing things creep in that weren't there the week before. It's amazing how quick we are to discount that experience on a Sunday and how pivotal it is in our daily walk. And that's something that my parents didn't mess with. Right? This is who we are. This is a family value system. Talking about family values and our core values. Two of them I know my kids would say, to repeat back, they would say, we work hard. Like all three of my kids are teenagers. They all have jobs. Very rare in the area that we're in. They all work. And the second, we go to church because we love Jesus, and this is a part of it. Those are the type of things that we've been really intentional about. And where I mean stepping on toes is we're intentional about saying no to select sports. This select sports thing, from my perspective, has had a big impact on evangelicals because they think they're choosing family. Like, I'm choosing my child. And I would argue you're not. You're not. You're choosing what you hope they can become on the ball field, and somehow you're replacing that for what would happen to them in their heart during that same time. And so a couple of our kids are athletes, and that takes a lot of discipline to be like, we're not doing that. If it's on Sunday, we don't do it. If it's on Wednesday, my kids, all three, their work schedules, 2 work at HEB, and Harley now works at Square Cow. And so Wednesday night, they know this is just not when we're going to work. And so those are maybe 2 or 3 little anecdotal things.
Man,
That's amazing.
I'm glad this is recorded. So for my whole time raising my kids, I can just go back and listen to it.
Yeah,
Your mom's advice.
Because you're teaching them in one way or another priorities.
That's right.
And so 10 years, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when they're not professional athletes,
Right.
Statistically, right? There'll be a couple in there, but you
100%.
taught them for years in the most important developmental years of their life that A, B, and C is more important than the house of God and your faith and what God asks you to do. That's not easy to do right now, I imagine, as a parent with all the pressure. Like, I can't imagine right now. I think things are going to be different by the time our kids are at the age where we decide about phones or no phones.
Sure.
Because way more studies are going to be out that show what the heck were we thinking.
It'll be like smoking in the 50s.
Yeah,
Be like, can
basically.
you believe how much they smoked?
Yeah.
We'll look back on phone usage and screen time, be like, how much time did you spend?
Yeah.
It'll
Truly.
blow our minds.
But I can't imagine like the social pressure that you and Kimberly probably feel with like sports on a Sunday and church, but then even like phones and how do we handle this when all your friends, I'm assuming, are doing that or they can do this, but in this family. Yeah, and that's one thing that you mentioned to me on a flight that we were on together a few months ago, that mantra, but in this family. Can you unpack that?
Yeah. So the idea is, and again, this comes from my mom. By the way, my dad's amazing too. Like, she's a single mom, we barely made it. No, my dad he's just.
Like I tried.
Yeah, he's like,
Okay,
he was
cool.
at everything.
Whatever, Wade.
No, he's great. So it was just this memory I have of, going to my mom and then trying to get her to acquiesce to what you're talking about. Like, well, all my friends are doing it, and all my friends, like, hey, all my friends are going to spend the night at this person's house on Saturday night. And my mom's answer was like somewhat sincere and somewhat sarcastic. She'd be like, I'm so glad they're all going, and you could just, I'm like, you don't sound glad.
Are you?
Like, I'm
I love
picking up
this.
on a little satire. But she would say, I'm glad they're all going. And I want them to have a good time. And that's awesome for them. But in this family, we wake up on Sunday morning and go to church. And if you spend the night there, so we'll come and get you late, but you're going to spend the night here because that morning we're going to church. So here's the way I look at it. There are going to be things where you're going to zoom through intersections and you're going to do what everybody else does. And I'll give an example. We let our kids have phones and social media. It has not been a personal conviction. This is big. Personal conviction, so big. For us, we felt like God said, hey, no, you don't need to do that. So we let our kids. So we went through that intersection. We went straight just like everybody else. But they're going to come to intersections like select sports where we feel so strongly about this. And we're going to say, hey, guys, to our kids, we're going to take a left here. And we know this is different than everybody else. But in this family, this is how we're doing things. This is our core values. Another one I just talked about that's less faith-based, but almost nobody works. The teenagers don't work in our area. It's an affluent area where parents pretty much pay for everything. Well, we feel like hard work is a core value. And so our kids go and get jobs. And this is one of those things. People are zooming past this intersection. Yeah. We stop at this intersection. We say, we know that all the other parents are doing it this way. And here's the deal. We can afford to give you most everything you want. But in this family, we have this core value of a work ethic. Yeah. And we know you're going to carry this on forever. I'm telling you, it's easier to pull that lever of playing select sports. It is easier to pull that lever of handing your kids cash. That is an easier lever to pull. But it's not in their best interest, and it's against our personal conviction about the family value system we're trying to build. Yeah. So, but in this family is the whole idea around that.
when it comes to the church piece, I have a answer I could probably give just observing you, but what would you say has been the key that your kids have embraced and grown their faith, where there's people who have the stories of, I had to be in church every Sunday and I hated it.
Yeah.
And I walked away from it as soon as I got out of my parents' house. It's not going to be your kid's story. So what's the difference between those two?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm not exactly sure because I haven't experienced that. I will say that my oldest child, Jax, is an introvert. And he's not the guy that just throws himself into non-prepped situations like this, you know? Mm-hmm. And so we were when he was in the 5th grade, the church we were going to, it was time for him to go from 5th to 6th is when you start going to youth. And we would drive him there on a Wednesday and he would cry. He would sit in there and he'd be like, Dad, I do not want to go in there. I don't know anybody. And I'm saying, son, I understand. I love you. I know this is difficult for you. This is uncomfortable. But this is a family value system, and it's never going to change. We're going to be right back here next Wednesday. So I just need you to embrace it as best you can. So, and he did. And he went in there, and then it was time for that group to go to Six Flags. And we were like, you're going to go. And what happened over time is he built community. And this is what happens when you keep saying, this is so good for you. We're praying with you through this. I know this is difficult. What so often happens, our kids do build community. It's when you see that hardship and that discomfort and you just say, I'm going to pull that lever of easy. You don't have to come. I know this is difficult for you. You don't have to be here. It so often breaks down the whole value system. And so, A, find a church that's got a good community. I think that's important, and we certainly have that here. But B, work through the hard times of them not wanting to go. Mm-hmm. Well, how many times do they get up and not want to go to school?
Yeah.
Well, all the time. You're going to say, well, just stay home. Of course not.
Right.
If this is important, it's important. If education is important, how is eternity not important?
Yeah.
This is what we feel. So we've got to stick through the hard times to get them on the other side of that where they've built that community.
I listened to a parenting podcast yesterday where the two people talking, two professionals, kind of agreed the number one thing maybe right now that's needed for kids and parents is the ability to endure frustration. That it's at an all-time low for kids.
That's right.
Trying to maybe learn how to read or maybe learn how to make friends at a new community. We live in there's no more delayed gratification ever. Mm-hmm. So when I'm faced with something that requires it, I don't have the endurance to handle it.
Dopamine nation.
Yes. And the same thing for parents who we can't sit in prolonged frustration either. So we'll pull that easy lever way too quick and then give in on values and change boundaries because this was just too hard in our day and age.
That's exactly
and the
right.
number one thing a lot of experts are saying now is the ability to sit in frustration for kids and for mom and dad.
Yes.
I mean, sociologists and scientists are saying like that the future belongs to those who can delay gratification, sit in frustration, self-regulate and self-control, and choose what they want most more than what they want now.
Okay, so let me tell you a prayer that I've been praying recently exactly to this subject. Getting to a place in my life where I can go and find comfort almost in any situation. I'm typically in control at work. My kids are at a place where I can give them what they need or whatever they need in the moment. Recently, I've gotten to a place where I've started to pray this thing, and I'm like, Lord, I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm feeling some discomfort, and I need you to give me the discipline and the foresight to push through this because I don't want to do this. I've started bringing God into that discomfort, which is a totally new thing for me, and maybe I'm just behind the 8 ball on this. But the whole idea of we're uncomfortable and to sit in it. And then there's a whole piece of like, well, why don't you invite God into that? Lord, I am so uncomfortable in this job interview situation.
Yeah.
There's some discomfort here. Lord, please give me the words. Give me some insight. Give me the discernment about this job.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable about this pregnancy that my wife's going through right now. Lord, I want to invite you into this discomfort because I'm feeling discomfort right now.
Yeah.
So sitting in it's one thing, and you have to be disciplined, but there's another spiritual element here, and that whole thing I talked about being unfair and holding that weight close is inviting God into that discomfort and saying, all right, Lord, join me in this discomfort.
Yeah. The Holy Spirit is described as a comforter. And I've felt convicted for years of times where I'm like, well, maybe I'm not really feeling like the Spirit of God's moving in my life because I'm comfortable. I don't need a comforter because I am so comfortable. It's a good word right there.
Dude, you know Tim McGraw's book is called grit and grace. And like the two things you just described, first of all, sitting in that frustration, grit.
Yeah.
I mean, all the studies show the number one thing that's going to cause people to be successful in a startup company or in a marriage where you go through dark years,
Yes.
like you said, is simply grit and the ability to stay when you want to go. And then you introduce grace, which the word unfair, grace is unfair.
That's right.
And inviting God into that grittiness of what life is in the day to day.
100%.
Grit and grace to get through.
I need to read that. Is it
yeah,
good?
It's really good.
Yeah.
I have it on Audible.
Oh, that's awesome.
Tim only reads the first 3 chapters though.
Oh, does?
Yeah.
It's not like Green Lights with
No.
No. McConaughey?
I would guess that part of what set you apart and that will set your kids apart in having that like as a rule, like we go to church but not resenting it and it actually being faith building, is that you watch faith be modeled genuinely by your parents.
That's right.
I think a lot of people have a parent who's like, we have to go to church, but they don't see any fruit of that parent's relationship
good.
with God.
Yeah.
But you saw that in your mom, like this is why she is the way she is. This has made her into this woman that I admire and want to be like. And she says this is the most important thing. So if that's the most important thing, I want that to be for me. And I think your kids see that in you and Kalo, that you guys are living this life that is so full of God and so fueled by Him. Well, I'm going to want to be like my parents in that way.
100%.
I hope we model that for our kids. I'm inspired by you guys.
Yeah, same here, man. Same. I mean, there's a short list of families in our church. I mean, we have a lot of amazing families in our church, but a list of them that we go, your kids, and you guys are at the top of it. Your kids, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah.
Man, I pray that my kids are something like yours.
Jax
when
could
they're
be
that-
all
I
of our
know.
mentor.
Seriously, man.
17.
Seriously, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Can we ask you a little marriage advice?
Yeah, let's go.
22 years, you said?
22 years, yeah.
Give us kind of the keys to having, you had dark years going through
Yeah.
ups and downs and all the things. What have been the things that have been kind of your marriage values that have held you guys together?
Sure. I'll say that we've never used the D word ever in even their dark years. We've never one time, not even a single moment, talked about not being together. And that makes a difference. Again, I don't want to get too legalistic, but I want to tell you a couple of things that I feel like have been really big for us. My first job out of college was working at the college. This is a really important job for me. It really set me on a course because of the guy that I worked for. I made $18,900 a year. Okay, so not a lot of money, and I still got a paper check. It was before direct deposit.
That's
so
awesome.
Took a horse and buggy to work every day. So Kimberly and I, when we were making very little money, we would take our check and we would go to the bank. And I don't know if you guys have ever used a deposit slip before, but you can put how much you're depositing.
Yeah.
You can say less cash received. And so they're giving you back money
Yep.
from the check. And we would put exactly 10% of that check. And we would take that cash. So we're talking about first fruits. It never hit our account. So everything got deposited except for 10%. They gave us that, and we would take it and we put it in a drawer at our house, this little bitty house we rented on Highland Avenue in Cleveland, Tennessee. And on Sunday we would go give that money. Okay, it's very little money, guys, but it was a lot to us.
Yeah.
I believe with everything in me that spirit of generosity and that discipline from almost having nothing to in terms of our marriage, us doing that together, we both agree we're going to give. During the dark years, God honored it. And He honored our marriage because it's something we both agreed on. Anytime that you come together and say, we're agreeing on this, same with we're going to be at church. We're going to do this. We are a cohesive unit, and we're going to go do this because we believe this is right, because this is about personal conviction. I believe God honors it. And so all during those valleys and those dark years and the really difficult times and having kids, if they're sophomore, junior, senior, guess what? They were 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Okay. If no one's praying at this, Kimberly felt like she was pregnant for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That just creates an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And I am naturally an impatient person, and I'm not super compassionate. So all of these things are mixing in. But I think that whole piece of like, we're both agreeing to this. Even during our worst years, we're going to get up, we're going to go to church. We're going to put the first things first. And some of those first fruits were a little bit of money. Okay. The next thing I'll say is, this is so silly, and one of the absolute biggest jumps in our marriage happened about 6 years ago when we did Enneagram. So silly. And I know people are like turning this guy off. He's, nothing has created.
That'd be the dumbest thing you could do right now, just because you said Enneagram to turn this off. So
nothing has created more grace in me for others than this tool.
Yeah.
Because I understand what makes people tick. And I understand why they make the decisions they make. And so when I realized my wife was an Enneagram 2, which is the helper, and she gets energy from helping other people. And so I'd get home after working a really long day of moving furniture, and I was super tired. And she'd be like, so first I started at the elementary school, went there, and then I went to the church, and then I went by the foster home, and it's been a great day. I'm like, that's awesome. What's for dinner? She's like, oh yeah, dinner. You know what I mean? And I would lose my cool. Once I understood why she was making those decisions and how that gave her energy and how she felt filled, full, and how she treated our kids and how that made her full, it gave me an immense grace for how we need to, work our lives and our marriage together. And when she learned that I'm an Enneagram 3 and I live in the future, I don't live in the present. I'm so bad at the present.
Right.
And she learned that part of her job is to help me be present with our kids.
The achiever, by the way.
The achiever, yes. And I'm constantly and trying to get 10 things done in an hour. I mean, that is how I'm wired. And her learning that about me and the grace she showed me as a result of that is so, so good. And the last thing I'll say about Enneagram, here's what I went and did. I went and looked up scripture based on what I'm predisposed to sin-wise. I can be overly persuasive onto the point of lying and manipulating. So I went and found scripture that said, Lord, I tell the truth. And I went and said, the tongue is the most powerful part of your body, and it can be life or death.
Yeah.
And I have scripture because I know an Enneagram 3 is predisposed to certain sins. So why would I now go find scripture and have it a part of my daily talk with God to say that that's not who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. So I'm use those types of things in our marriage and our personal life to try to push forward. And there's never been a single moment where we said we're gonna split up, we're gonna divorce if this doesn't get better. It's never happened. So those are a few.
How many years were the dark years?
So it started when I got fired from a church in 2007, and it probably went through 2011. Yeah, it was 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was right when you moved here.
Yeah.
A lot of changes
trying to
and-
start a company.
Yeah.
I think I made $12,000 my first year in business in 2008. Worked all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked 6 days a week, and on the seventh day, we would wake up and we'd go help a church set up and break down. So we were moving stuff then too. And so,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was.
You
You
couldn't
guys
get away
have done
from it,
that.
man.
Y'all
Oh, yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, our dark years, it was tough.
What would you say to maybe a couple who, I picture a brand new married couple,
Yeah.
and they're going, this is not what we signed up for. This is not easy. Nothing is happening without a fight, without a battle.
Yep.
What would you say to them?
I have a plug.
Yeah, come on.
Kimberly and I started a young married couple small group.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it needs to be us, and we co-lead it with Eric and Jaylene Heyman.
Legends.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And we have 7 couples, and when I tell you our heart for these young couples, like you can't believe how much we love this team of people. Go and find someone who's done it. Take them to coffee. Just asking them to come over for pizza and sit down in front of them and just learn. We will give our time to a young couple that's going through that. And guess what? Every other couple that's where we are would too. Here's what I say often. When we were building a business, we would often get to the end of a move and be like, hey, we built this business because people tell other people, would you mind telling somebody? And they would say, you know what? I'm working in a cubicle next to somebody that's about to move. I'll tell them tomorrow. Or they'd say, oh, my aunt's moving. I'll tell them. Or we would get to them and say, would you leave us a Google review? They'd be like, we'd be happy to. Here's the point in that. People want to help you grow, but they don't know how to help you grow. You have to ask. People want to know, like, hey, man, how can I help your church? And if you're like, this is how, they'll go do it. A young couple that's going through a tough time, nobody's aware of that typically. And when they take the bold move to go and find somebody that's in our state or where you guys are and say, hey, man, I need some help. For sure. Let's go to coffee. The answer is 99% of the time, happy to help you guys. Let's sit down and let's talk through it. So my advice would be like, go find someone who's already been through those dark years, get some advice.
Yeah.
That's such a good answer.
Very good.
I got more questions, but do you have
Go
one?
ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
Kind of along those lines.
Yeah.
But shifting away from, I mean, I think it's similar wisdom, but shifting from relationships to, we're in a moment right now where they say historically in our nation, this is the first time when you have a whole generation. So let's say graduating high school into college, into post-grad years, even into early 30s, where a whole generation doesn't believe that they can do more or be more than their parents' generation before them for the first time.
Yeah.
So our grandparents got it here, our parents got the ball here, and we have a whole generation that believes I can't get it any further. If anything, we're gonna lose some yards.
Right.
And there's a lot of, honestly, reasons that make sense for that when you look at just the climate, politically, financially, everything, from the introduction of phones and social media and what that's done to everybody, and kind of a little bit of a perfect storm that's creating that.
Yes.
However, I wonder what you'd say to somebody who's sitting in that perfect storm. Okay, great. But what would you say to them who maybe is thinking or feeling discouraged, like, I don't know if I can move the ball forward with my life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I have thoughts here, and I'm glad you asked that question. Nothing that I've done with any significance has been well planned.
Okay.
Like, we started a business in 2008, guys. It's just ridiculous.
Yes.
It should not
It's
have
like
worked.
planning a church the year before a pandemic.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So dumb.
But let's use that. You guys, this should not be where it is. This doesn't make sense. What is happening at Red Rocks does not make sense. And I feel like I get in front of you guys, and I almost tell you guys that every time I'm around you. I'm like, you realize this doesn't make sense. When we went out with you guys a couple months ago, I was like, you realize none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Here's my point. You know what else I'm amazed by? Okay, when I started coming to church here, first of all, I feel like Kimberly and I were the oldest people here. And I just assumed...
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I just assumed that you guys gave out gym memberships at the welcome back party or welcome party. Because, like, this is the room of beautiful people. How are this many tall people on the earth? I feel like it's all amazingly beautiful people. And here, you know what irritates me?
What?
They're single. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't understand. There's so many of them that you're like, you guys should just go on a date.
It's
Go
a
on date,
problem.
go on a date.
Here's what I think it is. There has become this mentality is I've got to figure it out and then go make it happen. No. Kimberly and I was 21, she was 22, older woman. Anyway, so
Nice.
we were young. We didn't have anything figured out. Kimberly was waiting tables. I was making $19,000 a year. We got married. Do you think we had anything figured out? No, but you don't get where we are 22 years later with these 3 wonderful children and without starting there with some uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with the business. Same with the church that started the year before a pandemic. It should not work. Okay. Quit trying to figure everything out, but throw yourself and embrace whatever it is that you want to go do and put all you have into it. That's been working since the beginning of time, by the way.
Yeah.
If I throw myself at something and give it all I've got, your chances of making it are a lot higher. And so this whole thing of these single people, I think there's too many choices. It's like looking on Netflix. I can't find anything to watch because there's too much to watch.
Yeah.
And there's so many options, and they're all here at Red Rocks, and they're all beautiful. You've got to start throwing caution to the wind and ask a girl out. And if she's amazing, you need to marry her. And if you feel like God's called you to start a business, quit trying to figure everything out. Go get an LLC. It costs about $350. Get a name and go start your business. Quit trying to figure everything out. Throw yourself at it and see what happens.
That's
awesome.
good. And I think that part of
Yeah.
the dating problem is nobody's actually throwing themselves all in. They'll start dating someone, but they're still swiping and talking to other people. They're not going all in on the relationship, which carries into marriage where it still has that feeling of like, yeah, if it doesn't work out for me, if I'm not happy, then I'll just bail on this.
It's the kind of mentality.
The kind of
Can't
mentality.
quite give myself to that because a yes here is a billion no's to every, and what if I start this business, but my real passion, like I imagine for you, moving furniture, you didn't grow up thinking that's my passion.
It's terrible.
And we're told to, hey, follow your passion.
It's a mistake.
No successful person has ever given the advice, follow your passion.
That's right.
I think they say, get really good at something.
That's right.
Have some grit, and you'll get the grace to go with it. Stick with, and you probably have a passion though of building a company.
That's right.
And providing for a family. It's crazy how much passion you find in those things. Doesn't mean you have to be passionate about moving a dresser.
That's right.
You know?
100%. No,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. But that whole thing, yes over here and over here is the same thing. I've got to make sure this is right and perfect before I go do it. That is holding you back. You need to go do it. You need to. If your job is making you miserable and you're an unhealthy, unhappy person, you need to go find another job. So much, if I'm looking back over the last 25 years, is I did not know. I have this other thought. I was sitting at this place called the Front Yard out in Spicewood. It's a cool little place, and we're with 3 other families. And I'm sitting with 2 of the most successful guys I know. One guy sells medical devices. He's in surgeries all the time, but he makes such good money. The other guy's a developer, and he makes stupid money. And like, we're kind of chatting. Maybe I hit a moment of vulnerability, but I'm like, honestly, guys, I don't really know what I'm doing. And the other guy goes, I don't know what I'm doing.
Me neither.
And then the third guy's like, I never know what I'm doing. And it hit me in this moment. Nobody knows what they're doing. And we have this perception that these guys know what they're doing. No, they don't. They're walking into the meeting just as confused as you are. They're going into that marriage just as unsure as everybody else. Everybody's in this place of uncertainty, and that's okay. If you're a person of faith, guess what shows up at this moment? Faith. That's where uncertainty goes, is to faith.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see people of this church especially to kind of put themselves out there little bit and find a spouse and go have some offspring.
That's good.
It's a good sermon right there.
That is so
I think
good.
that what's missing, and maybe has just been because of technology and social media stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why completely, but the figure it out gene is like evaporating for people. Where my grandpa, my wife's grandpa, that guy's life story was like, oh, then I learned how to fly a plane because we needed to get footage of this football game out to that town. So I got to figure that out. Like, I figure it out. Everything that dude, like, there's nothing that we could have ever asked him that he'd be like, I'm not going to help you with that. He'd either go, I know exactly how to do that because I figured that out, or I will figure it out.
Right.
But now it's the convenience and the ease and comfort of life.
Though.
We don't have those muscles. Everyone's walking around just afraid to try to figure anything out. It's the same thing with marriage or having a kid. I tell these couples that in premarital counseling, it's like, well, we're not sure we're ready. And I'm like, oh, you're not. I promise you're not.
No.
If someone asked me on my wedding day, are you ready? Well, I don't know because I've never done this before.
James
of course
Dobson
I wasn't ready.
from Folks in the Family wasn't ready to have a family.
And
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. It's like,
that's really good.
Nobody's ready. And people, like, we have 3 kids, and people with one would be like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, we had another and we fed it and we figured it out. And then we had another and we fed it. Both my sisters have 5 kids each. They're populating the earth. You just figure it out.
You just figured it out.
You figure it out.
Okay, let's talk
People
about that
have
real quick.
always figured it out.
Yeah.
That's why we're still here.
Well,
People
but
figured out how to get to space.
The figure it out.
That's incredible.
But there's a dichotomy because the figure it out muscle is at an all-time low, you could argue.
Yes.
But the ease of all the resources to help you figure anything out
There's
is
a
through the
YouTube video
roof, man.
for everything. That's
So when people say like, "Oh, I want to, start working out," I just have no idea what to. I'm like,
what are you talking about?
Do you have a phone? So you have YouTube.
Right.
Oh, so then you know how to do anything.
You can walk
There's
into
nothing you can't figure out how to do in 45 minutes. You just need to try.
To bring this full circle to skydiving, Chris and I were talking after we went yesterday, and I was like, stuff like this, you just stop and think. We as human beings have figured out how to be able to jump out of a plane and live and experience flying.
Yeah.
Why would I not try that in my life? Why would I not go figure out what that's like, right? There's so many things that we can do that people are afraid to, or they think they lack the resources. But we actually don't. You just figure it out.
And where everybody falls on Elon Musk, one thing that I'm fascinated, he is our Thomas Edison. Our children's children will learn about him because he's a guy that's like, I don't believe that. I don't believe it should be that hard. So I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And he does it across so many different things.
Yeah.
And it's rare now. It used to be a lot of people were out there figuring stuff out. He's become this anomaly because he's one of the few left that's like, I'm going to go figure that out. And I
Yeah.
have the money to do it. And
Yeah.
I admire that about him. He is our Thomas Edison of today. And I'm like, yes,
Yep.
go figure that out.
He'll probably figure out how to get people on Mars and populate Mars.
That's
you know,
right.
He's truly with your business.
Yeah.
For somebody that's like an entrepreneur, or maybe hearing you right now, like, you know what, I am gonna go get that LLC. Like, it's time I actually do this. This wasn't handed to you, right? You started. You're moving furniture. You're like, now you have teams that do that, and you get to be more on the leadership side.
Right.
But what is a little advice you'd give to somebody, career-wise, leadership-wise, that you've learned over the course of all your ups and downs?
Yeah. So when we launched our branch in Denver, it was probably like 2016, 2017. We sent one of our good managers and an assistant manager up there to go launch that team. And so by this point, we had kind of developed a whole program for launching a branch, right? And we do a lot of guerrilla marketing, which means advertising is expensive. Advertising is a moving target. It's a really difficult thing. And if you don't have the money for it, it's really hard. So what do? You are the advertiser. So
Yeah.
you go out and you market, and we have systems for this. So these guys went out to 90 different like apartment buildings, storage facilities, retirement homes, where you walk in and you say, hey, I'm Wade, I'm with this company, and we'd love to serve your residents. If you guys don't mind, can I leave some cards with you? That's kind of the idea. Sometimes you bring donuts, sometimes you bring bagels, but the idea is you're trying to build relationship with those that can send you business. So they went to 90. Their goal was to go to 90 in the first 3 months, 90 in 90 days. And so they kept all the data on it. And they asked all 90, who else from moving comes in and solicits your business? 89 of them said nobody. Okay. People are lazy. I'm just going to put it out there. Okay. Most people that are willing to get past the discomfort of going into a place and being rejected. Some people are like, bro, get out of here. I'm not taking your cards. That's a hard thing to live through, even as a full-blown adult.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
And so if you can get past that and you can find a way, I would take my moving, sweaty shirt off, put on a polo, go to a networking event, hand out cards to everybody at the networking event, tell them what we do, and then go put my moving shirt back on and go to a job. I believe what set us up for success was my business partners and I would stop at nothing because we had children. We literally had to feed. And so there was a drive in us, right? We will be successful. There was never a moment. When we got to 20 trucks, one of our managers, a guy named Mike, asked me, did you ever dream you'd be at 20 trucks? I said, every single day. Every single day when we had 2 trucks and we didn't have anything on the books, we were like, we are going to do this. And that drove us to do things like guerrilla marketing. Like, we will get out there and we will find the cheapest way. If you go into a donut shop, by the way, at like 11 a.m., they'll sell you everything else they have because they're about to close. So we would go and we'd be like, for $15, we want everything. They'd box it all up and then we'd go give it all away. So we find all these little things regarding rejection. I would put 15 card bundles in my passenger seat. And I would say, I'm not going back to the office until they're all gone. Because what would happen is that the first time I got rejected, I would just want to go back. And I'm like, this isn't for me. I have other stuff I need to do today. I can go back and work on email. Instead, I'm like, I'm not going back till the seat is empty.
Yeah.
These little mental, when it comes to business, these little mental things are so big. And
Yeah.
so I would go and I would go through the misery of getting all those out until it was all gone. That's how we built our business. And it was hard. But the rewards have been amazing. And that grit that you talk about, that comes from experience. You aren't born with grit. That is a muscle that atrophies or gets bigger. And so I think all of that happened in those early years of like, we will make this work. And we grew from obscurity to the largest moving company in Austin in about 10 years. Well, there's companies that have been in business for 30 years. I believe because of God's favor and hard work. I think those 2 things. And if you ask my kids, they're like, why do you feel like your dad's business? They'd say God's favor and hard work has been drilled in their head.
Boom. That's so good.
We quote Scott Brugman, who founded Red Rocks Church. He did a million different things, right? As a part of the team that started the whole thing. And he'd fill this role, and then he'd do that for a while, and then he'd be able to hire somebody, and he'd move on to the next thing. And every decision he made, everything that was hard that he went through, his mantra was always, I just want the church to work.
Yes.
I just want the church to work, and sacrificed and went through dark days and all those things because he just wanted it to work and had that grit and God's favor. So I see that in both of these stories, which is fun that we get to be part of that. that legacy. And I'm thankful to have you as a person in our life and on this podcast. There's so much good wisdom that people can gain from your grit and all that you've walked through. And so thank you for sharing some parenting, marriage, career, faith. We covered a lot of good ground there.
Yeah.
I think Kayla is going to be so impressed.
Kayla should be
when
impressed.
she listens to this.
I'll
Man.
report back.
Yeah.
Let us know. I did think you asked about the phone. Maybe we could have a segment where sometimes we call you for wisdom with Wade. Wisdom with Wade. Hey, we've got a question.
Wisdom with Wade.
Wisdom
Yeah.
with Wade. That's happening. So get excited for that.
Let's do it.
Thank you for joining us, Wade.
I love being here, guys.
You'll be back.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, bro.